Hello, men, and welcome back to MGTOW Camarilla. I am Camarilla, and I am apologizing to you for taking so long to get another video out. There's a famous quote that goes, "Life is what's happening when you're busy making plans," and in my case, that's been true recently. While I strive to deliver quality content on a consistent basis, sometimes other things get in the way. If I could do this for a living, I absolutely would. There's nothing that brings me greater joy than helping men, but sadly, I am not fabulously rich and do not have the disposable income to do what I love all the time. That being said, I want everyone to know that my channel will start featuring new content very soon. I've been talking with several individuals about how we can make this channel better, and have decided to start two new series that will run alongside our regularly scheduled programming. We're going to be doing a new segment called Man to Man and a new segment called Man to Woman. I can hear the cries of outrage already from some of you men. Can hear it through the computer. Let me explain. It would be foolish of us as men who are trying to better their lives by understanding women to ignore the observations of other women. Now, I'm not talking about things that you would see in public. I'm talking about who women are when they are just around their female friends. Because just like guys are different when they're around their buddies and when they're around their family, women are different when they are just around their female friends. So, what I am seeking to do is gain insight, or at least observations, on the things that women see that guys never will. I think this will be a valuable tool for men. I think that this will be an important segment that will be extremely beneficial for men who want to understand, for men who want to cut through the fog presented by women. I'm very excited about it, and I hope you'll all find the information useful. That's what this channel is all about, is giving you men the most useful information that I believe in and can back up. With that being said, we're going to hop right into today's subject, which will be an educational one, like many of my videos. But we're going to stray away from focusing on women for a moment, and we're going to focus on men. And we're going to focus on the self-destructive behaviors that a lot of us engage in. Now, there are thousands upon thousands of reasons that men would engage in self-destructive behavior. I think we all understand that it is truly pointless behavior that does nothing to benefit us, hence the name. But nonetheless, I think a lot of guys still engage in it. Today we're going to be exploring identifying destructive behavior and ways to change it. Because if we can't help you change it, what's the point of making the video in the first place? what I'd like to do is express to you some of the self-destructive behaviors that I have witnessed in myself over the past couple of years. But to properly do so, I'm going to take you back to when I was a teenager. A young teenager. Puberty was onsetting, and life was becoming more complicated than waiting for school to end so that I could go home and do all the things that young children do. Hang out with the family, play with toys. The simpler times that I think we all kind of long for, but know that we can't really go back to. I started noticing towards the end of middle school that I was going through certain changes, and I began noticing women around me, girls really. I began to feel anxious when I was around them, and a little bit later I figured out what I really wanted from these girls. I think we all know what I'm talking about, so we're not going to delve into that aspect of it very much. I noticed rather quickly, however, that I was ill prepared to achieve my goal. See, I had no problem talking to girls because I had had female friends already. What I had failed to understand is that there's a transition from female friend to someone that wants to get naked with you. So I let myself down, but in a very necessary way. I remember very clearly the first girl that I ever had a crush on. Her name was Alex. She was in my class. I thought Alex was very pretty, and in an almost innocent kind of way, I felt that she was someone I could see myself really loving. And I got those puppy love feelings. So it was very devastating for me when I confided in my first ever toxic male friend. I told him that I liked Alex, that I thought she was very pretty and very smart, and that I got extremely nervous when I was around her. He listened for the better part of a half of an hour and told me that I should ask her out, despite neither of us really understanding what it meant to go on a date at that point. But he assured me that I should do it nonetheless. And then something tragic happened. I went home and steeled myself for the next day. I was going to ask out my crush. I played the scenario in my head 1,000 times over and reworked my words, what I would say, how I would say it, pretended that she would respond in certain ways, really just let myself get lost in the fantasy because I was young and was experiencing puppy love for the first time. Despite all of my imagined planning, the next day I went to my friend and told him that I was going to ask her out. This is a different friend, by the way. And he told me that the friend that I had confided in the day before was already dating this girl. Now you can imagine my confusion because I had made very clear my intent to ask this girl out. But he took that opportunity to do it before I did. And while I hated him at the time, because, let's face it, that's a scumbag move, I've learned to appreciate what he did. Because in that moment, the lesson I was taught is that if you wait for what you want, if you spend time waiting on the perfect moment, someone else can come in and do what you were planning to do. And you may feel like they have robbed you of whatever it is, but in all honesty, how can they take something that you don't have? How can they steal from you when you've never owned it? Whether that's relating to women or anything else. Over the next couple of years, I had interactions with women, and around age 14 started to get the grasp on how to get what I wanted, how to properly flirt, and all that sort of thing. At 15, I had my first serious girlfriend. And to put it in perspective, we were together for about 3 years. So when I say serious, I mean someone that I invested a lot of time, energy, and money into. We gave each other our virginities. We were together every day after school because my mother had just moved to the neighborhood that she lived in with her father. And this happened very shortly after we began dating. I didn't know that we were going to be living in the same neighborhood. It just happened, and it all seemed so perfect. It seemed like, wow, this is what's meant to happen. This is who I'm going to be with for the rest of my life, and here's the evidence for it. Needless to say, that was a juvenile and naive idea that was disproven several years later. It was actually around this time that I began engaging in some very self-destructive behaviors. While I did have a girlfriend that I was happy to have, and while I had nothing to really be quote-unquote upset about, I found myself to be very unhappy. And I started engaging in these self-destructive behaviors by cutting out a lot of my sleep, not eating properly, not exercising. I began to lose a lot of communication with my friends who were worried about me, but didn't quite know how to ask what was wrong. And I don't blame them. Again, we were all very young. I'm not blaming this on anyone. I think it's worth noting that while I had my own personal problems, I don't think that everyone randomly chooses to be self-destructive. If I dig deep, I know that there are reasons for what I did. I know that I was not a very happy person. Despite having a better life than a lot of people, I was not happy. And it really showed. I quit caring about myself. At the same time, I invested a lot into this relationship. I was investing more into her than I was into myself. And ultimately, this was part of the reason that she and I did not work out. I began to love her more than I loved myself, and I began to treat her the same. If you've been watching this channel, you'll know that that's a massive turnoff, that it will ruin your relationships very quickly. Women do not want men who love them more than they love themselves. I think this triggers a sort of maternal feeling in them, that you love them so much that they don't have to love you back. They might, but they don't have to. A mother, for better or worse, has to love you back, or at least should. But a girl you're dating has no obligation whatsoever to take care of your emotional well-being because you are overly invested. I don't think any man should expect that of a woman. That is giving her entirely too much power over you. If you can't see that, then you have a lot of serious work to do. No woman should ever have that much power over you. Now that I'm done reflecting on the past and my beginnings of self-destructiveness, I want to talk about a few ways that I've noticed in others that they can be self-destructive. I know men who, against all better judgment, will fall into various addictions, alcohol, drugs, that sort of thing, knowing that their families have a history of it, knowing that they are more than likely going to get addicted to it because they have addictive personalities. All these sorts of things these guys know, and they end up doing it anyway. And the best reason I can figure is that, like a lot of people, they're seeking an escape. And they know that these things work to some degree. That to some degree they will get relief. And they don't really care about the consequences of that relief. And this works out for them for a while, as I imagine it does for a lot of people. No one would drink and do drugs if it didn't work for a while, right? But these men continue to slip down the proverbial rabbit hole and just waste away. I mean, we're talking about smart guys with good jobs who are going through some shitty things and really screw up their life. I mean, I've had many friends lose their job over alcohol, over drugs. They've lost jobs, they've lost houses, they've lost the support of their families. I mean, it gets ugly. I have known, and am thankful to have only known a few, but have known a few people who have lost their lives to their vices, to their self-destructive behaviors. This is a very real problem that a lot of men go through. We're not going to spend this entire show talking about how sad it is. We're going to explore different ways that people can be self-destructive, and we're going to offer solutions. Beyond drugs and alcohol, there's another, more hidden type of self-destructive behavior, and that is one that ties into the nice guy complex. These are people who severely overextend themselves, supposedly trying to help others. And it's always bad. I mean, I don't know of any guy who has overextended himself trying to make everyone else happy that hasn't ended up absolutely miserable. I don't know a single person like that. They value other people more than they value themselves, or they base their worth off of how many people they can quote-unquote make happy, not realizing that happiness is up to the individual, and while they can certainly be a welcomed friend, while they can certainly be supportive, while they can certainly help people, it is not that person's job to make another person happy, especially another man. A man should be in charge of his own happiness. He should be able to dictate whether or not he is happy with his life. And if he is not, this is where the inspiration to do better comes from. I hope this all makes sense to you, because chances are you know someone like the person I just described. I feel like it's worth mentioning that this happens to women too, and that as a good man, it is your duty not to abuse these women. What I mean by that is, do not take advantage of their good nature simply because someone is willing to do nice things for you. Does not necessarily mean that they want to sleep with you or be with you. I will never, never, never be okay with a man that forces himself onto a woman or tricks a woman into being with him via guilt or coercion or blackmail or any of that. Those aren't the type of men that I welcome here on this channel. Okay? When I talk about men being with women and seducing women, that is all in fair play. Now, yeah, we teach psychological tricks and stuff like that to help give men an edge, but there's a difference between gaining an edge or leveling the playing field and outright cheating at a game. You understand what I'm saying? Cheaters are scum no matter what. No matter what the context. Back on topic. There are any number of ways that men can be self-destructive. If you are physically hurting yourself, people who cut, or men who are anorexic, anything like that, listen, I don't judge you. That's not what I'm here for. I see you as someone who just needs some help. While I wish I could be the person to help you, I'm simply not qualified for it. If your method of self-destruction involves physically harming yourself, I encourage you to seek out a therapist or a specialist for your benefit. I know that you hurt yourself for any number of reasons. I will never claim to understand your specific reason without knowing, certainly. But what I do know is that there is help for people like you. And there is no shame in getting the help you need. Because if you're on this channel, you're looking to better your life. And I will help you do that in any way that I can. Even if that means sending you to a psychiatrist, psychologist, group therapy, anything. Those are all things that can be beneficial to your life. No shame in it at all. If you are one of the men who self-sabotage in a more traditional way, then my advice to you is to really take stock of the benefits that your self-sabotaging behavior gets you. If you are an overly nice guy who just wants to help everyone, goes out of their way, sacrifices, puts yourself in bad situations to benefit others, if that's you, just stop and take stock. Really consider what you're getting out of this. If you're looking for validation from other people, you will never be satisfied. And I'm going to repeat this because it's very important, and I think this is something that all men should know. You will never get the validation you are looking for from other people. It is something that you can only give to yourself. It is a wonderful gift to give to yourself. And I believe that all men who seek to be successful and happy need to validate themselves. It can't come from someone else. You do not need a woman. You do not need your parents. You do not need anyone to give you validation. That is what they call a fool's errand. It is a task which, despite probably not being one that's easily accomplished, will also give you no real benefit. So what I mean by fool's errand, it's something that you seek out to do and is not beneficial. Will literally never help you. Ever. If you are the type of person who is deeply afraid of forming connections with people, my advice to you is to select better people to know. If you feel like you can't trust anyone, you are hanging out with the wrong crowds. If you feel like everyone's out to get you, then that means that you've been in situations where people have betrayed you, and it's become your new way of thinking. I'm not going to pretend that some people will not betray you. Even if you do your proper vetting and all that, sometimes there are just shitty people who are better at being manipulators than we are at being people who can sniff out manipulators. But you can't live your life afraid to have meaningful connections with people, especially people who end up being beneficial to your life. The key part here is people that are beneficial to your life. No toxic women, no toxic men, no people who constantly put you down and belittle you. None of that. Those kind of people should be cut out of your life. Okay? We're not talking about accepting every Tom, Dick, Harry, Jane, and Janet that comes along your way. Not talking about that at all. What we're talking about is people who are genuinely beneficial to your life. If you are self-destructive in the way that you are always setting yourself back or are afraid to try something, you're probably one of the worst kinds of self-destructive. And I don't mean worse as in you're a bad person, because that's not what I'm talking about at all. What I mean is, you are going to cripple yourself far more than a lot of these other types. You're going to rob yourself of opportunities. And that's really one of the worst things you can do, is rob yourself of opportunity. If you want a great life where you can thrive and succeed, you can't afford to rob yourself of opportunities when they're presented. You can't afford to be afraid to take opportunities that come your way. You can't be afraid to make your own opportunities. Steve Harvey, who most of you will probably know, he's become a household name across several generations. While he may not be the richest man in the world or the most successful, he is certainly doing leagues better than 90% of the rest of us. And he said something very profound while they were either setting up or getting done with an episode of Family Feud. And he said that successful people take the jump. I'm not going to copy him word for word, and in fact, I'm going to put my own spin on it and simplify it. Taking the jump to me means being unafraid to pursue what you would like to without truly being ready. If you wait for the moment that you are truly ready, wait for the moment that all of your ducks are in a row, or if you're waiting for something to happen before you commit to a business venture or an idea, as long as you're not going to greatly cause suffering in your own life if this fails, which is a possibility that we all need to acknowledge. Sometimes shit don't work out. But if you're ever waiting until the moment is perfect, or if you're making other excuses about why you can't do something, you're backing away from the edge of success. You are not taking that jump that has to be taken to be a successful person. Opportunity and effort go hand in hand with everything in this life, whether it comes to women or business. If you are afraid to take that jump in any aspect of your life, you are self-sabotaging. You are holding yourself back from what could be. Holding yourself back from the man that you want to be. I don't think any of us envisions being a man who is afraid of pretty much anything, but especially not a man who is afraid to be successful. And I say afraid to be successful because if you're afraid of failure, I'm not talking about the healthy dose of fear of failing that we're going to naturally get. I'm talking about if you're so afraid of failure that you don't even try, that is a problem. That is not the man that any of us envision wanting to be. I just don't believe it is. I encourage each and every one of you to get the proper support you deserve and need from the people in your life. Or, if you find that the people in your life are so shitty that they refuse to support you or actively work against you, cut them out of your life. Every moment that you waste around toxic people is a moment of happiness that you're stealing from your future self. It is up to you to make your life worth living. It is up to you to make your life great. It is up to you to make yourself happy. And you will never get there by self-sabotaging. I hope you've enjoyed our talk today. I hope that you've taken something from this talk. I hope that you see that there are other people out there who engage in similar behaviors. Don't think that you're ever alone in something that you do. There's a 99.9% chance that someone out there has gone through what you're going through. There's a 99.9% chance that someone out there is going to be able to help you get through whatever it is. You do not have to suffer in silence. If you cannot make it on your own, if you can't quit these self-destructive behaviors on your own, that's okay. That doesn't make you weak. That doesn't make you less of a man. The only thing that makes you weak is convincing yourself that you're not going to get the help that you need. If you convince yourself that you are not worth help, if you convince yourself that your problems are not worthy of being acknowledged, anything like that, that's when I call you a loser. Your life is valuable. You are valuable. And it is okay to have problems. Not one of us goes through life without having problems. I don't care who you are, where you're from, who your family is. All of us have had problems. Okay? There's no shame in having problems. There's shame in not dealing with them. And if you have to deal with them by getting help, then so be it. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing at all. If I'm tired, I get coffee. If I smell bad, I take a shower. I don't just say, well, I smell bad. I guess it's going to be this way forever. No, I go and get the help in the form of a little bit of soap and water, just like you do. If I'm really tired and I need to make it through the day, I might get some coffee or an energy drink or something, you know. I'm not just going to say, well, I deserve this. If I choose not to get that coffee or whatever, then fine. It means I can deal with it on my own. It's just as acceptable of an option as going out and getting that coffee. Mental health should be treated the same as any other day-to-day problem. It should be treated as any other physical problem, which means that we find a solution and apply it. We find what works and we do it. If you're engaging in self-destructive behaviors, find a way to stop for your own benefit. Whether you do it yourself or get help. What's important is that you solve the problem, because that'll bring you one step closer to being a successful, happy man. And that's all I want from you. I don't ask you guys for money. I don't ask you guys for anything. All I ask is that you take steps to be happy, successful men. It's all I want from you. And you should really want that for yourself. My name is Camarilla. This is MGTOW Camarilla. And I hope to see you all soon.